Actually,
Here he is.
why don't we just not take a break? Why don't we just pull Merril Hoge up on the air right now? How you doing, Merril? We are live.
This is you can't get any better than this. We are live radio. Not that you've ever done this before.
Yeah, it's the magic of radio right there. Merril, how you doing? Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely fantastic. Now that I'm sitting down and looking at the field, this is an easy job up here, right?
It is.
It's an easy job up here.
We got practice coming. You can hang out here the rest of the day if you want.
And you guys got a little air conditioning? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, absolutely. Dry roof over our head. Merril, I was talking earlier. I said one of my I started covering a team in '93, and they still had photo day. That was the last photo day. You killed photo day. Do you remember why you killed photo day in '93?
No.
Barry was holding out.
Oh, that's right. Enough said. Yeah.
And you ripped him a new one. A new one.
I forget exactly what I said conceptually.
Basically, he needed to be there.
Right. I mean, if you looked at the history and how – listen, I came in here in '87 and '88. What happened? Mike Merriweather decides he's going to hold out. And what did Mike Merriweather do all year? Held out. Now, he obviously stood his ground, but so did the Steelers. And my point was you just don't – you're not going to get anything done in this organization by sitting out. And you just signed a deal. I think he still had at least two, which made it absolutely just his thought process, whoever gave him the counsel, or whether he had counsel or not, was like, it was bad. Yeah. You know, you're not going to go anywhere with that, and it's becoming a problem. It was a problem with our team, you know. I mean, if you really wanted to deal or redo it, come here and prove that you want to redo it. And you should have thought of that before and structured your deal so that you wouldn't be in this situation, you know. So, yeah, I do remember that. He created a little controversy. Well, when he came into camp, I addressed it with him. I talked to him about, you know, what my position was, and he told me what his position was, and then we went to play.
Let's transition to now with Le'Veon Bell and what's going on with him. Some suggest maybe he's getting bad advice from his agent. I think you got to try to get every penny that you can. He is gambling on himself, certainly, performing this year and being able to stay healthy. Yeah. What are your thoughts on all that?
Well, see, all I can do is I use my experience and my perspective on stuff. If you're gonna, I mean, obviously, what the tag, there's a lot of money there. I mean, that's obviously a lot of money. Now, personally, I'd be in. You know, I'd come in and I'd be ready because I understood, and I don't care how great a player is. You know, I watched Rod Woodson hold out one year, and Rod Woodson was, to me, the best athlete I ever played with. Okay, he holds out, and then I think he came in a week before camp was done to get ready, and I almost believe San Francisco was coming into town to play us, so it was going to be him and Jerry Rice, and just Rod was not the same because I say that training camp seasons you to get ready for the season. Then the season you seasons you for as you move on into the playoffs. I mean, there's a process in that. You got to prepare. It's just a lot of things. There's no how great athlete you are. I mean, last year, Le'Veon Bell, there was no timing. You could sense that, and you watched it. You could study it for weeks, and that's going to be a problem if he doesn't come in. I don't care how great a player he is. You just don't at this level. You just don't roll up off the street. And people, even if you are training, if you are working out, you're not working out with your buddies. You know, you're not working out with your team. You don't have the same timing and rhythm when you're somewhere else and they're practicing. You do that for a month together, it's a big difference. You know, when you just do it for 3 days getting ready for opening day, that's just not enough. So, I mean, I'd come in. Or, and I don't know what the deals have been, on both sides. I don't know what he's turned down or what's been offered either, so I'm not going to speculate on that. I just think you got to be careful sometimes when you get a little greedy, So, and I'm sure that he looks at Todd Gurley right now and he's like, I'm deserving of that. He's kind of set a standard now. I don't know if they can get a deal done based on that, but if I was doing the tag, I'd sign it and come in because they're not going to work. I mean, he's not going to play in games.
No, he was not. I mean, I think the last time he was here, he got three to five carries in the preseason.
And there's no need for that, so you know that. But the value to be here and the chemistry and the seasoning that goes on. I mean, that's just, if you want to produce the very best, this is the best way to get yourself where you're trying to go, you know. So I'd be here. I'd show up and come here and play and get ready. But, you know, that's, you know, even if I had his skill set, because I didn't have his skill set, you know. So I always keep that in perspective too. I just think it always looks better for you when you have much more leverage. It's much easier to defend you when you're here.
Yeah.
It's hard to defend you when you're not here. So.
And we've seen that over the years, and the Steelers just they won't negotiate until somebody comes into camp. And although they can't negotiate now, so this is a different situation. The franchise tag has changed everything.
Yeah, because I forget the exact date, but once that's done,
July 16th. Yeah.
So they can't even. And you can help me with this because I don't follow it all that closely. But so they could not
they
strike
can't talk
a deal
again now until after the
season's over.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And you know what? And I think that's smart too, because that doesn't help a player and doesn't help an organization if that's going on throughout the year. I think that's a good rule because it just eliminates even the possibility of it. You know it, I know it. So the media can't be talking. You know, I can't say at week 8, well, we got a deal, we turned it down. That's over. So
well, I think that all ended too in '93 when Adrian Cooper talked about his he said his at the end of the season after you guys got knocked out against Kansas City,
right.
And he talked about how his contract being going to be a free agent at the end of the year weighed on him all season long. Mm-hmm. And, you know, look, if we're not going to talk about this stuff, then know that we're not going to talk about it, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
there's no sense in worrying about
Adrian Cooper, I told him, I was like, Coop, listen, you want to get a big deal? I mean, don't hold out. I talked to him the night before we were reporting. I was like, I'm telling you, don't hold out, because if you won't hold out, because remember Eric Green was going back and forth, and that was becoming disgruntled. Coop may not have been quite the pass catcher.
He was a talented.
He was a beast as a blocker. And if he'd stayed here and harnessed and worked on his weaknesses, running routes and catching the ball, I just believe his career would have been much different had he stayed here. But he let that. He was disgruntled when he walked. He held out. Then he comes in. Now he's mad. Well, when you're mad, and to your point, now the contract's talked about all year. That's weighing on your head. Because in the locker room, it was always on the practice field. It was always being talked about. When you go in the locker room, and then players start, picking sides, and it's not a good thing. It turns your locker room becomes disgruntled, and that becomes a focus over playing well and winning and playing together as a team. So, I like it from that perspective. It doesn't mean it completely eliminates it, but it does eliminate the media stirring it up because it doesn't matter.
Well, if they say, hey, we're not going to talk about this with you. We're not going to talk about an extension after the season starts. Well, there's no reason to concern yourself with it then. You're not thinking about it all the time. You're not calling your agent, hey, what's going on? Have you had any talks? Or
and nobody can spark that either because you're like, listen, nothing can be done, even if – so there's no conversation. It's a moot point. But it'll be interesting when the season is over, if and how he plays, because I understand the business side of it too. I think Le'Veon's had one complete year. Is that one full year, which is last year?
Yeah, and the year before in the regular season he did, but then he got hurt against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. So, It's only been one.
Right, and this is his 5th or 6th.
This will be his 6th year, I believe. Yeah. So, but he's when he's on the field, he's as productive as anybody that's ever played the game. 127 yards of total offense per game, that he averages. That's the highest in NFL history.
He's a wicked weapon. There's no doubt about that. But I will tell you this. This is what's great about team sports and gets. I think obviously it gets diluted or gets lost in. People will see what he does in this offense. Let's say he doesn't play here next year. And they're just going to say, well, he'll just go do this over here in Cincinnati, or he just does this over in Tampa. Well, time out. Is the quarterback the same? Is your wide receivers the same?
Is your line the same?
Is your offensive line the same? And quite honestly, is your offensive philosophy the same?
Right.
Okay. All of those things matter, just because you go from one. I know everybody always thinks, oh, he'll be great if he goes to Minnesota, or he'll be great if he goes – let's put it this way. He's always going to be great because he's just got a unique talent. But does he fit in? And do they?
It's like
how do they work?
Like Jerome Bettis. When Jerome Bettis was with the Rams, they were phasing him out, and his last couple of years, he wasn't as effective as he was when he came to the Steelers. They had an offensive line in place that was good, and he was able to take over football games.
And then their philosophy with the Rams is just different.
Yeah.
They just.
I mean, you played in Ron Earhart's system. That's it was
right,
built for running backs.
Right, and it was built for guys like Jerome. That's exactly the type of offense, and that's another part of the luck of the draw in a career. Do you fall into a philosophy that fits you? That is. Because playing all the philosophies I did, obviously Chuck's fit, the trapping game fit, and the way they used me. Well, the Ron Earhart's really didn't fit me because he wouldn't let me play running back. He kept wanting me to be a fullback, and in that offense, that ain't nothing more than a glorified guard. Period. A glorified guard. I mean, which I was like, now listen, because Ron Earhart and I used to loved Ron Earhart. We had our battles. But I think he was a fabulous coach. He was one of the best I was ever around. But we'd sit there and argue. I go, now listen, how can your fullback, which is me, be your third down back, yet you can't find a way to get me the ball? I'm like, you're that limited offensive. Your mind is that limited because he would be like, he'd be always busting my chops on stuff. And I was like, well, I'm just going to tell you, Ron, here's what you're doing. I can bring more of the offense you're failing to do. So don't get on me. I go, I don't know another fullback you want to bring in, which was Maurice Carthon, quite honestly. So he wanted to cut me and bring Maurice Carthon in. And Maurice Carthon was a fabulous blocker. Not a receiver. Not a very good runner at all, but he fit the perfect system. Or fit his system. But I'm like, I'm your third down back too. I go, that doesn't make no sense.
You trust me to catch the ball. You trust me to do all those things. But
pass block around. But on first and second down, I'm a non-factor. So we had – it was actually just before I went to Chicago, he pulled me into the office, and he's like, hey, listen, I'll back up. We played the Patriots. Barry had left. He got hurt, and I had about 160 total yard, 100 on the ground, and two touchdowns anyway in the passing game. And Bill Parcells came across the field, and he said, hey, man, Merrill's one heck of a football player. He goes, you're lucky you had him today. Okay, well, that changed Ron Earhart's view of me. Because Bill Parcells.
It was Parcells saying,
it was Parcells' perspective on. Because to his credit, he tells me this story. That's how I know the story. Because he tells me the story, right? So when the season's over, he's like, he pulled me in because now I'm a free agent. He's like, listen, I want you to come back, and we're going to have you and Barry. So they may not even have drafted Van Morris had this not happened. He's like, we're going to have you. We're going to get a fullback, and you two are going to be our tandem, and we're going to go at it. You do third down still. We'll work you back and forth first and second down. But at that point, I was like, I don't know if I trust him. I was like, he says that. If I come back and actually San Francisco, I was actually going to sign with the 49ers, but they didn't have enough money even to run minicamp.
So that offense would have been perfect for you.
Yes, because they tried to trade for me 2 other times, and Tom Donahoe nixed them because I was like, Tom, cut a deal. Let me go because I didn't fit what they were doing offensively, but I was there. I was the perfect fit, and actually I added something to them that Tom Rathman was a very good blocker, as an okay runner and a good receiver. Here's what they were going to do. They were going to let Ricky Waters and I just play together, and there would never be a strength or weakness to a formation based on, like, I wouldn't just be the fullback and he wouldn't just be the tailback. At times we would switch so they couldn't get in on any of their running tendencies or their passing tendencies by the backfield action, because remember back then they used split backs a lot.
Right.
And so that was their reasoning to want to draft or trade for me, and then for me to play there, because everything started with their backfield motion and action. And if you could never tip things based on where I was lining up and he was lining up, because sometimes I'd be tailback, sometimes he'd be fullback. Right. Because Mike Shanahan was offense coordinator at that time. Some people go, how do you know that? Because when I went there as a free agent, that was their explanation. And then I went with Carmen Policy, who said the same thing, and then George Seifert, he broke my heart. He's like, Merrill, if this is like the old days, he goes, I just asked you how much, and you'd be a 49er. I wanted to hit my head on the thing. I was like, no. I'm like, no. I'm like, but we can't even run minicamp because we were only $200,000 under the cap. I was like, that's terrible. And ironically, they won the Super Bowl that year.
They did.
That's the year they won it, and I went to Chicago over San Francisco because they wouldn't have been able to sign me until after the draft. And you do run a risk of, and they drafted.
They draft somebody and then they don't. They say,
which they did, but Mike Shanahan swears this day they wouldn't have done that had I committed to him. But I mean, you never know. I mean, I went to Chicago. I loved going there. I mean, I wanted to stay here. Actually, what people don't know, I actually got a 3-year, $4 million deal. Okay, so my agent calls me. I'm at Washington, WJ, working out in the pool. I'm driving back. I was going to go to my house, so I said, you know what? I'm the worst negotiator in the world. This is any player ever did this, you'd kick them right in the rear. I drive down to Three Rivers. I go in to meet with Tom Donahoe. I tell Tom Donahoe of my deal. I'm even willing to take $200,000 a year off, so I'm losing $1 million right off. But I'm willing to do that because I wanted to be here. And he was just like, nah. He goes, I got Barry. I don't need you. And I was like, I walked out Three Rivers. I said, well, I'm a Bear. So I tried to be it.
Yeah.
And I love Tom Donahoe. We have all kinds of arguments and debates. And that was I was like, I just gave up $1 million to stay here because I was playing for about $500,000 at that time, and he didn't. Actually, I think he wanted to cut my salary, and I was like, Tom, I'm like, here's what I have, and I'm willing to make the. He's like, nah. He goes, I got Barry Foster. And I was like, well, all right, I'm a Bear.
And as it turned out, Barry didn't play much longer.
He didn't. Actually, I think they traded him that year to Carolina.
It was after. I think he played one more. I think he played one more season. They traded him after '94. He played the first 2 years.
Okay. All right. Because and I know that. Well, that's a whole other story.
He just couldn't stay healthy, and
yeah, that was a problem. But he, I tried to stay here. I really, really, really did. But like I said, my age, if he knew I did that, he'd be like, "Have you lost your mind?" I'm like, that's how bad I wanted to stay here. I was like, I didn't want to go. And maybe that was the kick in the butt I needed. Just I had to go. I mean, they were going a different direction. They saw things differently, and that's what happens. It's that's part of the business. And you have to understand that, accept that, and make decisions the best you can around that.
Then he came back here and jumped in the radio booth with Cope and Hillgrove.
Most people would not even know that. I'm telling you, that's the greatest trivia question you could ever have because I probably said 5 words in a year and a half. I had the greatest seats though, and I learned from two of the greatest. But really, Mr. Rooney, Mr. Rooney saved my. I could argue his opportunity saved me from the way my career ended in the middle of the season and with head trauma. I was in depression. Ending your career in the middle of the season is one of the worst things because you don't have like the off season to transition. Even that time frame to kind of establish something new. It's just like over right in the middle of the season. That was so brutal. But he called me up and he was like, "Hey, listen, I'd like you to be a part of the broadcast booth with the Steelers." And I remember I said, "Oh my gosh!" I go, "Myron Cope's not going to like that." And he said, "It's not Myron's decision." I said, "Yeah, touche." I said, "That's a good point." That is a very good point, Mr. Rooney. I go, you know what? You are right. I'm like, he goes, "This is my call." I'm like, "That's the best man to have it at his call." And I'm like, "I'll be there." So he, it was a great experience and I was doing college. I launched ESPN2 college football. So I was doing that and the Steelers broadcast, the combination of them, and WTA, the Friday lights. Yeah. Was doing that. And anybody who worked with me in that era is just like shaking their head right now, go, how he ever became a broadcaster. Like, we'll never know. We'll be out there doing stand-ups for 30, 40 minutes. God, I just can't get this right.
Merril, appreciate the time.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you so much.
Always fun, man.
Dale, we'll be back in a couple of minutes right here on Steelers Nation Radio.
Sounds good.